Hello, everybody. Thank you. Welcome to my first solo live stream. And I realize that I am going to be talking into the void probably this first time out. I only decided to do this yesterday afternoon after the Amazon layoffs. And I gotta say, I don't know about anybody who's ever going to see this. Frankly, I don't even know that have the wherewithal to record this right now. I don't have the ProPrint StreamYard, but yesterday's Amazon layoffs kind of hit different. I have been in this industry since 2004. And I remember it really gave Lehman Brother vibes. If any of you have, survived the recession, you remember that closing of the bankruptcy of Lehman Brothers and how the news really focused on all these people working for Lehman Brothers losing their jobs, walking out of the building. They all had like cardboard boxes full of their stuff, and it just hit different. It felt like really, oh no, everything is now collapsing. And I really got that vibe yesterday with the announcement of 14,000 Amazon jobs being cut. And it gets deeper and darker than that because we find out UPS also laid off 48,000 workers due to automation on their part mostly, and also UPS severing quite a bit of their ties with Amazon, not fully, but definitely scaling back from Amazon. But Amazon like got rid of 14,000 employees yesterday via email, talking about being nimble. Now, granted, in fairness, Amazon, they gave 3 months severance to these employees so that they're taken care of during the holidays, but they do intend on apparently getting rid of like 16,000 more during when the holidays are over. And by the way, these aren't fulfillment center jobs. These aren't people just running around handling boxes, which I'm in no way, shape, or form disrespecting that. But those are sort of jobs we've seen over the years be automated. These were all corporate jobs. These were global corporate positions, theoretically, by and large, jobs people went to college for. And now they're being automated with AI. Well, not even that. It's not even that with Amazon. Amazon cut these jobs because they wanted to invest money. They thought these people's livelihoods, their jobs, weren't as good for the company as future investment in AI. Like GSUs, or I forget the GPUs, I forget the exact name of the chip that they use to create these monster machines, or that everybody's vying for. But they essentially decided, okay, these jobs are not as valuable to the company as these chips are going to be, and we want to invest in that. Crazy, crazy times. So I think Amazon is really a canary in the coal mine. I think our new robotic overlords are here. And so I am going to be setting up, even if I'm just talking to the void every week and getting it out there and off my chest. I don't care. If you guys are here, please ask whatever questions you have. I'll be here every Wednesday at noon answering any kind of resume or job search related questions that you have. To introduce myself, my name is Marie Plett Lane. I am the most award-winning resume writer in the history of the industry. I think I'm at like 50 something awards right now. 33 of my award-winning resumes are, behind me now, but they're a little dated at this point. I think I'm approaching the big 6-0 pretty soon. I just got nominated for 5 new awards last week. So, I'm an authority and mostly because, I'm a graphic designer as well. And I've won a lot of awards for graphic resumes. Now, how that really fares in the new AI economy, it has some advantages, and I'll get into that later. But I am probably going to have to upend and adapt my approach, my business model, as I constantly do, to meet these new demands. We are living in a whole new world. And so I'm calling it the AI job quake. I don't know if I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to probably be publishing some information on the topic. And I'll just go ahead and dive in. And if anybody's just watching, listening to the sound of my voice, just know that you're not alone. I talk to clients, job seekers every day. And so let me put you a little bit at ease, I hope. But, I need to inform you of some kind of bad things first, right? Well, maybe not bad. Let's just clear up the air here. Let's talk about, because right now it's all about AI, right? Artificial intelligence. So, what is AI actually doing to the hiring process? If you find yourself with an email from your employer focused more on their ability to be nimble and to be the world's biggest startup company than your livelihood, forget your insurance. Yeah, that's okay. You're all going to go on the food line now, but nimble. We want to be nimble. Great. Thanks, Jeff Bezos. Oh gosh. People, I don't know. I feel like AI and technology too, and ever since COVID, people are just so comfortable being rude to each other, yelling at each other on X and ghosting each other in real life. And there's like no compassion or humanity anymore. And I guess we're just supposed to be numb to accept that. And I don't know. I'm actually pretty disgusted when I saw the emails that went out by Amazon yesterday. I mean, some of these people have been working, and not even just Amazon, their properties like Twitch and all this. And this comes, by the way, a week after they messed up their AWS platform. They're only like really truly profitable part of their business now is AWS, and they couldn't even get that right. But they're going to go ahead and just callously fire the humans and rely on this technology that's clearly flawed. Fabulous. All right, off my horse. Okay, so what is AI actually doing to the hiring processors, and what are recruiters and what the recruiters aren't even saying or frankly even seeing? Because up until a few months ago, I was still getting into little online discussions with recruiters who insisted to me, oh, every time a resume comes on my desk, I read them all. I see them all, I read them all. And I'm telling you, a lot of them will swear that up and down, but you get them drunk. Oh my gosh, it's a different story. Because of course, a lot of them have never read all resumes that come by their desk. Most, one of the big things that we've known since was it JobVite did all sorts of studies on this years and years ago. And I'm saying, like, I want to say it was as far back as 2007. Even back then, they would say when you submit a resume, as in like to whom it may concern, to a total stranger, you were going to get a 6-second scan. They're going to take a look, might look at your headline a little bit, and they were going to really look at the dates and job titles and stuff like that, see if they even like you or not. But that's not reading every resume. That's just glancing at every resume. Let's be honest. Even if they admit to doing that, but a lot of them, when you're a skilled recruiter and you've looked at hundreds and hundreds of resumes, that's all you do all day. You immediately can spot the stupid ones like that, and you don't even bother. So you get to a point now when you have technology that sorts them out and says, okay, these are the most relevant, and these are ones that might even be, spam. Go ahead and by the end you get down to the bottom of the list, and you're not reading all that stuff. But so the reality is, even nowadays, these and by the way, I pay very close attention to and study the most common applicant tracking systems in the United States. We call it ATS. But when you apply to a job online, your resume goes through an ATS program, an applicant tracking system that sorts and prioritizes the resumes. Most of what ATS really does, though, is help people from the HR perspective. It's going to let them know how they heard about, the job opening. They're going to, help their hiring marketing. It's going to help them know who they talk to, where they are in the entire hiring process, who interviewed who, on what date, and what the follow-ups are, and to schedule. And, these are helpful HR enterprise tools. However, more and more are relying on AI. In fact, I would suggest now pretty much all of the main ones are. And while there are probably about, 2 to 300 programs out there and new ones coming up every week, every day, perhaps, there's really only a handful that employers are using en masse, right? And I'll get into them later. But pretty much all companies, I won't even say most companies, because even all companies, they're hiring through like Indeed or LinkedIn, and even those sort of function in the same way for these employers. So on a level, like if you're applying to a job online, like 99.999% assume your resume is going to be reviewed by an applicant tracking system. Now, most large companies filter these applicants and score and rank before a human ever looks at them. And recruiters, again, they're like, oh, I read them all. Well, a lot of times they don't even see them all to begin with, unless they really go into their system and see absolutely all resumes, which most of them don't even like think to access anymore. Or at least the recruiters I've spoken to, like they don't get that deep into it. Well, hello, Meredith. Somebody joined. Thank you. But they don't even like really get into it. So recruiters are often themselves unaware of how much weight the AI algorithms scoring actually holds, because recruiters aren't really reading most of the resumes. The algorithms are before they get to the recruiters, or even how arbitrary it can be. So AI right now is quietly reshaping what qualified means. So even just a few years ago, it was all about key phrase matching, just writing in the right key phrases and matching the job descriptions to the words and phrases used in the job descriptions. But now AI is also folding in with that historical data. It constantly thinks, it constantly reimagines what hiring should look like based on the decisions of these hiring professionals. Like, for example, it's kind of a famous story. It is a decade ago, 2014. Again, Amazon has all the hiring horror stories, but Amazon has a proprietary ATS that they use, and they decided that they wanted to just sort of, they built it and they wanted to reduce bias, and that's one of the big perks about these AI systems. They don't have human bias. They don't have prejudice, right? Theoretically. But of course it does, because it's AI and it's built on human thought. So they wanted to build a system that got rid of all bias. And what they found was the system was automatically rejecting women. Within a year, they found that they had a very hard time hiring women, because it was going through its historical hiring data and realizing for technical positions that they'd only ever hired men. So when women had either feminine name, I don't think it was a name thing. I think it was more about if they mentioned that they went to like women's organizations, or if they went to like, what is it, schools, like I forget, like Brown or Vassar, or like, all women's schools or what have you, that it rank them low. It would make it so that recruiters couldn't even see it. So they realized that they had a real problem. But the problem is, even if they fix that, and they acknowledged it back then when a lot of these Amazon ATS developers were like, going over to Business Week and talking to them, that basically even if even if they were to fix that issue, essentially AI is going to punish you for not being a digital twin of other people that they've hired in the past. As soon as somebody from HR hires you, they look at your resume, you've gone through interviews, they like you, they hire you, the ATS, the AI based learning models that go through it, they're going to make note of that. And that's the kind of person that they're going to want to, prioritize more. All right. So let me kind of talk you through a little bit how ATS interprets, your resumes. Okay. So when you submit a resume online, it enters like a multi-stage workflow inside the company's ATS. Okay. So again, some of the more popular ones, like Workday is the one used most in the United States, and it's the worst, most terrible applicant tracking system I've ever seen in my life. However, from everything I've heard, like their salespeople are amazing and very convincing, and do golf outings and stuff like that. It's the only possible explanation of why Workday is so popular. If you go onto job sites and you apply for jobs and nothing seems to work, it's always like the same sort of red little icons and little red things, and you see on the top URL it's Workday, and you try to do a plus or more than minus than sign, it can't read that, and it gets the dates wrong, or it doesn't understand the companies. That's Workday. Okay, Workday is just the junkiest, jankiest. And it also has, I think they were having some lawsuits about their bias. But also, I'm an expert on Workday and Taleo, which is a very popular. ICM, Greenhouse, Oracle Cloud, and Taleo is Oracle anyway, basically. So they're very related. So I'm familiar with all these systems, and they do kind of interpret different, different characters, different little elements of the resume a little bit differently. But basically what they do is this, okay? You upload a resume, you submit the resume, and then it's going to parse it for the information. It's going to take all the text and it's going to organize it, and then it's going to analyze it, and then it's going to give it kind of its own little score and rank it, and then filter it before the humans review it. Okay. So each stage uses some form of machine learning or natural language processing, what we call NLP, or rule-based logic. Okay. So during the parsing phase, it converts most people submit a PDF or a Word document, a docs file. These systems most recruiters still don't like, Google Docs. I think Google Docs trend has finally perhaps left the building. Thankfully, people want documents, they don't want like links. They need things that they can keep. So they like the PDFs or the docs, but it'll parse it. It'll use, again, another NLP parsing engines like Sovereign, Daxtrin, Text Kernel. They'll identify the structured data. They'll take out, and usually in these forms, you have to fill out all the contact information separately, how you heard about them. But it'll go through the contact information. It'll go through the job titles, employer names, dates of employment, education, skills, certifications, keywords. It's going to go through all that and just sort of organize it. Then these elements are then stored as discrete database fields. Like a lot of times, again, so think about your resume almost kind of becoming like, if you're familiar with like a JSON file, like a JavaScript object notation file, where it's full of structured data points in a human readable, machine parsable format. Okay, so that's what it's first doing. It's taking your resume and it's sort of organizing it so it can read. Then it's going to go through something called semantic skill matching. So it doesn't just keyword match anymore. They use semantic search models, often through BERT or transformer-based NLP models, but they want to understand the context, right? So, for example, if you put in something along the lines of your resume that said led Salesforce CRM rollout, then it says maps to CRM implementation or Salesforce administration, digital transformation. It'll say all sorts of things like that, and it'll kind of give those, this is where AI becomes intelligent, because key phrase matching used to be very stupid. And I mean, up to just 2 years ago, it was dummy, dummy, dummy. And so if you wrote Salesforce CRM, that would be the only phrase it would link to, that it would say, okay, this is what it's known for, so this is what. But AI now expands that, and it makes that CRM, Salesforce CRM rollout into digital transformation. It'll link it to all sorts of different skills that it's already looking for in the job description. So that can be very helpful to you. And then it'll have like cinnamon clusters, word embeddings, and TF-IDF weighing to help the IA understand the meaning beyond the exact matches. So again, these models will match your extracted skills to the job descriptions required and assign similarity scores, right? So, it'll help boost and rank. And then the next part, of course, scoring and ranking. Each candidate gets a composite relevance score based on factors such as, skill alignment, keywords, proficiency levels, recency, and it gives weight to things that, that matter. It sucks. It sucks because as a resume writer, I never had to deal with all these kind of things, right? And you always have to strategize. And it was always about manipulating a human reader to where their eyes wanted to go, to tell your story how you wanted to tell your story as a job seeker, right? So I could reorganize information. If you haven't done anything relevant for 5 years, I could put relevant experience up top, and then additional experience on the bottom, and abbreviate that. I don't think these tricks are going to work anymore. They don't work. They don't work anymore. It is what it is. It's really hard because, I consider myself as a resume writer to be on paper, so to speak, a manipulator. I'm going to tell the story how the client wants to have the job story tell. I want to tell how the job seeker wants to be seen, and I want to manipulate the employer to believe that. Right now, AI is cutting through that crap. It just is. So it's going to rank what you do based on the recency of your experience, right? So if you haven't had relevant experience in 5 years, it's date weighting and on the relevant jobs. So senior, obviously, this has always been a thing. Seniority and tenure, the title of hierarchy, normalization. If you're going for VP roles, but you don't have anything higher than a manager in your job titles, it's going to consider that. Obviously, education match. If the work job requires, certain degrees, it's going to make sure that you do that. And of course, it goes into its own engagement signals. If you've already applied for a job, you responded, you were interviewed. So these components get weighed in the system's trained model, either pre-trained by the vendors themselves who created these ATS systems, or fine-tuned by the employer's historical hiring data, right? So before a recruiter even logs into ADS, the ATS can show that, your resume ranks in 96 or 88 or 74% match. And a lot of times they don't even see that ranking. But it'll, especially if they do but I think most recruiters know, right? Like if they do a requisition rank, or in some cases they call it a relevancy. I call it a relevancy rank, so that my job seekers understand, what I'm talking about. But, on the ATS side, most of the time they're just talking. They call it a requisition rank, right? Because when they talk about candidates, they're talking about requisitions a lot of times. That's the language they use. Okay, so a lot of times recruiters will only really focus on the top 10 candidates out of hundreds of thousands. So, or not hundreds of thousands, hundreds or possibly thousands. So this kind of brings me into something very kind of key. If you're applying to jobs, if you're out there in a job search right now and you're getting rejected, you're not hearing things, there are two ways you can figure this out, okay? If you are applying for a job and you get rejected within a few days, chances are a human being saw you, considered you, and said, for whatever reason, they don't like you. And so they hit that reject button, right? When you apply for a job, what happens is, from the recruiter side, they post a job, And they're not sitting there by their computers just, waiting for them to all come in. No, they usually set it and forget it for a few days. Let X amount of applicants, roll in, and then they go through the list, right? If you are ranking at the top of their list and they don't want to see you anymore and they know they've looked at you and they don't want to see you constantly floating on the top of that list, they're going to hit the button that says, thank you for applying, but we've decided, despite all your wonderful qualifications, we've decided to go another direction. But it's always that standard boilerplate email, right? If you don't ever hear from them again, or you hear 2 to 3 or 4 or 6 weeks later, or, I've seen people get rejected like 6 months out. It's because they never really they might have saw your resume, they might have considered it, but you're at the bottom of the list. Like, you're not up there, you're not, you're not pulling focus from their top candidates, right? Like, you're just sitting at the bottom, and maybe they haven't even seen you. And so then, like, okay, this person was hired, we already got this, we gotta, make way, clean up for our systems and archive this one. And so they just hit a button, closes out the job, and then everybody who ever applied for that job get the same thing. So if you are going through your job search and you are getting rejected frequently, quickly, that means you're doing something to irritate humans, or something is not, your resume is doing very well in the systems, but human beings, they don't like it. But if you're not hearing, if you feel like you're just constantly getting ghosted, if you feel like your resume is constantly just being eaten by the void, then chances are it's not doing well enough in these systems. It's not matching the key phrases. It's not doing what it needs to do. Now, there are tools that can help you with this, by the way. What matters here, to get through these systems, at least just to get to a human. Because again, I can't stress this enough, we're still not yet at the point where our new robotic overlords are making the hiring decisions. Okay, they're not hiring. They're organizing, they're sorting, and yes, they can really hurt you. They are gatekeepers. So if you don't know what you're doing, if you're not matching, if you're not customizing the resume, you can, run into a lot of problems. Okay, but it's you really just need to. I know people. Look, I know people want to be lazy. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I gotta say, I I'm still to this day kind of shocked with some of the set it and forget it approach that a lot of job seekers take. They just want, and I've had people pay me all sorts of ungodly money because they want a miracle document that will sell them as absolutely everything to everyone. And while I am an exceptional resume writer, again, the most award winning in the history of my industry, and I've helped, I can't even tell you the kind of people I've helped and how well I have. Honestly, it's kind of crazy, but I can't do that magic. I cannot sell you as absolutely everything to everybody in one document. Okay, you gotta start picking some lanes. You need to customize. It's always been the case. Customization has always been kind of key, if nothing else, just to show your passion and interest for the job. But what's happening is the other nightmare side of this, and that is not nightmare. It's a new reality. I think we all have to adapt to and adapt to. But the other issue is that people go online and they use resume builders like AI tools, and you see them advertised on Facebook. And oh my gosh, the absolute nonsense, the absolute stupidity of what is promoted on Facebook. And like they'll have like little memes and AI cartoons that are like, oh my gosh, I beforehand I was just applying to hundreds of jobs on LinkedIn and not hearing anything, but last night I decided to use easy apply or lazy apply, or scratch my butt and just get jobs apply, or whatever the new ones they call. And I woke up to 2 job offers. Like, it's because AI wrote that ad, and AI doesn't know how job searches or humanity or interviewing processes go. It puts out nonsense like that, and I'm sure maybe it has to do with clickbait as well. But the ads are really stupid. And like last year, I had so many job seekers coming to me with ridiculous horror stories of interviews they shouldn't have been at because they put their resume in this set it and forget it mode and decide to have AI apply for jobs on its behalf. Well, this might be something that's helpful and meaningful, and I don't know. I don't think it'll ever be really good. I don't think just having a bunch of computers talk to each other on, for something that should be a human experience, right? Like finding the right match for a job. It's almost like dating. I mean, would we all have AI representatives? Are we all going to have like if people who are single just use chatbot to talk to each other, and that's what it's all going to be? Like, what is humanity anymore if we're doing this, right? Like, this is crazy. But you know, they put this their resume. They build a resume through these AI apps, and then the AI morphs it, essentially customizes the resume for these different job postings. Problem was again people and they're and I'm sure all of I haven't explored all of them. I've explored a few of them. I'm sure that most of them probably have a hey, you want to apply, you want to double check this before you hit send, but a lot of people were just letting it do it on its behalf. And so, for example, there was one job seeker came to me last summer. She was in America for about a year. She was native to China. She barely she spoke English decently, but English was her second language, and she did not speak a word of Spanish. And she entered an interview where she was required to speak Spanish fluently because that was the most important uh, part of the role. This was the customers that they were dealing with were primarily Spanish speaking. And so, yeah, there were a lot of horror stories about wasted job interviews because people would be like, set it or forget it. And then the AI would apply to different jobs on their behalf, whether they're qualified for them or not, and then swear up and down that, would just change it, morph the resume to talk about how greatly she spoke Spanish, right? There's also been a lot of stories that I would get and still get on some of these AI application resume builders that, like, one of them applied to the same job 25 times in one night, and you don't want that either. Like, there are a lot of glitchy things that happen with these systems. They're not great yet, and frankly, even to this day, they're just really, overpriced for the bang for the buck. Like, the ones that really do a good job, they'll apply for like 2 or 3 jobs on your behalf, and they'll charge you like $100 to do it. I mean, and if you really want to rely on AI, you might as well just do it yourself with ChatGPT. At least you can proofread and double check. And a lot of you guys don't have the right prompts. You don't know what you're doing with ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is not really great at, like, if you go and make me a resume, it's going to give you all sorts of nonsense that's not particularly good if you don't know what you're doing prompt-wise. But even that is better than a lot of these AI things. So companies got better over the years, fixing their coding, doing what they could to sort of get rid of, this AI slop, this spam that was coming in their direction. So they also started, and they've been prioritizing this for years, but LinkedIn profiles can be very helpful. We don't have anything like blockchain really yet. We don't have any central system to verify employment or education in a universal way. So the closest thing a lot of employers can get really is to look at your LinkedIn profile. And for example, if you're a person who speaking Spanish is your top skill and your top priority in life, your LinkedIn profile is going to reflect that, right? So I do recommend tailoring, doing it smart, doing it intelligently. There are a lot of tools out. Well, some are new, some are very old. I've been using, like, for example, Job Scan. I've been using that for years. I still think that's pretty much the gold standard. There's Skill Seeker, Teal. There's a new one, a Resi, and there's like so many of these that have come up every week, every month. There's like a new one. It's basically ATS matching systems, and they usually charge like a nominal fee, like Job Scan. I think it's like $90 for 3 months. Skill Seeker is like $12 a month. These are like nominally feed services where you take your resume, you upload it on the screen, you upload the original job description that you're applying to, and it'll go through it and it'll rank it. It'll rank it and let you know, hey, um, this is these are the key phrases that you need. You need to swap out. These are the phrases they're looking for. They have marked this that having a master's degree is not required, but is preferred. You might be deprioritized if you don't have one. So in that case, I for my clients, or I recommend to you, write something about an MBA if they mention a master's degree. Acknowledge it in the resume in an honest way, but get those key phrases on there, right? So if they prefer a master's, you can just say, I have a master's degree equivalent of experience, or you can say, if you mean it, I'm willing to get a master's degree for the right opportunity. And most of the time, if you have the career equivalent of a master's degree, they're not going to request one. They're not going to require one. But you know, if you mean it, say it. But just get the phrases in there in your education if you need to. But they're very good tools in the fact that they highlight exactly what you're missing and what you want. Now, logically, you can use ChatGPT, honestly, to find out. And I hate that I'm basically being replaced by my new robotic overlords. I don't know what's going to come of me or my industry. I don't know. I think we're all just sort of feeling this out together. So far, it's been helpful to me. So far, it's been kind of a superpower. Um, but it is hard to say how it's going to, when all this is said and done, how it's going to shape all of humanity. Because I just don't see any pullback on this. And I don't ever want to get like political in these streams or ever, because I honestly I don't even think this is necessarily a political thing. I don't think if you're an American, it doesn't matter if you're Democrat or Republican. I don't think any of these politicians are shying away from AI. I don't think any of them are looking to block it. I think they all sort of view this as an industrial revolution and something that we all need to adapt to. And but I think it's going to happen a lot more quickly, a lot more suddenly than any other sort of these, like the Industrial Revolution. It's going to happen. It's going to happen real fast when it does. I mean, again, 14,000 jobs cut right before Christmas. Like, right, we're getting into starting. People are starting to, you know, figure out they're finalizing Halloween. They're already starting to shop for. They're cutting boards for Thanksgiving, and they are cutting jobs, and not even because they already have the technology that is replacing them. They're doing it to invest in the technology they want to replace them. That's how deep this is. That's crazy. I mean, that's crazy if you think about it. But yeah, it's gonna hit. It's gonna hit hard. It's gonna hit fast, and it's gonna hit probably January. January typically is from a hiring perspective. That's busy season. Career coaches, resume writers. We have seasonal ups and downs. Where this is what I call usually the last of the year scramble, because once Thanksgiving comes around, nobody cares about looking for a job anymore. Nobody does it really seriously, right? And employers aren't caring. HR departments, that's when they're doing their end of year fiscal stuff. That's when they're doing holiday cards and bonuses and planning the company parties. They don't really hire, and then it's almost like working at a fitness center, right? And then January comes, new year, new me. Everybody wants a new resume. Companies all are starting their hiring again, their new fiscal years. So January is usually, especially once you get to mid-January, gets very busy for resume writers. This is normally the time it kind of slows down, and I'm starting to realize it's going to ramp up because they're doing layoffs in the holidays. It's crazy, freaking crazy. Okay. So back to the AI JOBQUAKE, and I'm not sure. Let me know if anybody has it. If you think that's a lame one, I don't know. All right, but let's get back to the AI of it and why AI might be rejecting your resume. There are also other filters. Okay, so with applicant tracking system, there's another kind of a hurdle. There's the auto filtering and rules layer of their prioritization methods, right? So beyond the system's AI ranking, recruiters will set out often what we call knockout rules. Okay. So what are knockout rules? Knockout rules are things where they will set their systems to automatically reject you based on certain items. And if they are smart, if you've been applying for jobs online and you just hit send on that baby and you just like, okay, I think I got this and I'm submitting this resume for this job. And then within 30 seconds, you get a response that says, thank you for applying, but we've decided to go another direction. That is a recruiter who, that is an HR office who did not think to put a timer on that bad boy, because normally, even then, they'll have like some sort of timer. They'll wait a day or two before they, send. They'll set their system up to wait a day or two before it distributes that message. But if you've been applying for jobs and you get an instant rejection, you know what it is to face a knockout rule. All right, so for example, and I know we just touched on it, must have an MBA. And they might, if you don't mention that you have an MBA or they ask you, do you have an MBA, and you say no, or a master's degree, they might just knock you out right there. If, for example, the company needs you to be local and they're in Dallas and they set their system to say, we need our candidate to live 25 miles within Dallas. If you don't, if your system, if you're on there, your address is, Cleveland, Ohio, boom, knocked out. If you have like certain top skills that you want, but then they'll have like pre-screening questions, like for example, are you authorized to work in the United States? And you say no, boom, knockout. If you answer multiple choice questions incorrectly, okay, so a lot of times if you're applying for jobs, they'll have multiple choice section, maybe to ask you about, decision, to test your decision making, to test your ethics. They'll have maybe ethical questions. They'll have just logical questions. These are quizzes, and if you fail, knockout. They're not going to look at you. So there are like a layer of knockout rules that recruiters also apply to these systems to save you all both some time, because if they're not going to hire you because of these issues, you know. Okay, so when the recruiter finally logs in, okay, they're going to see a ranked order list of candidates. They're going to have a lot of match score badges in some cases. Some cases they don't necessarily see, the badges, but and I've had recruiters like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. That's ridiculous. I get these rankings, and what are these rankings? Well, then what are these rankings over here? Well, that's for the test score. I go, no, that's for that's requisition rank. That you don't know what that is. I go, that's what requisition rank is. That's what these things determine. But they'll have like they'll have like often like highlighted keyword snippets from your resume and filters. A lot of these systems are set up, or they intentionally set them up. The employers will, or they're aware of them, or they're not aware of them. Some recruiters are not aware if they're working in a large company and they're kind of entry level. And they're not that familiar with the system. They don't even know how the employers have set up the systems yet, right? So there's sometimes they'll be like, it'll only, if they filter it out, it'll only show like an X amount of a match. Okay. So again, a lot of it kills me, because if you sit down with a recruiter and you look at their system with them, you kind of go in the back end, you can show them, like you didn't really see all this. You didn't see this. If you set the system to show you absolutely all candidates, and you can really see them all and you can really look at them. But most really skilled recruiters, most have been around the block and they know, and some of them really do look at all the resumes. And I will also say this. A lot of this is predicated on the level of employee that they're looking at, right? If you are a low level, somebody with, I don't want to say low level. I'm not dismissing anybody, but if you are somebody who has fewer than like 5 years experience, right? Or you're somebody who's like entry level, kind of and there's hundreds and hundreds, and it's low risk, it's low stakes position, and they have like thousands of candidates. Okay, they're really going to filter that. Recruiters probably aren't going to read all of the resumes, because at that level they do get a little annoying, honestly. But if they're hiring like their next VP or executive vice president, or like a CEO, and you have a whole board of directors that have to review it, those resumes get a lot more time. Those resumes, they're not going to let these systems a lot of times even filter those out. So it depends on how they have it set. They might even open it up, and a lot of if you're an executive, you have a better shot at having read. But honestly, more and more and more, we're hearing executives come back like, I just get ghosted in ways they weren't before. And more of these applicant tracking systems, these programs, they're constantly advertising AI and AI filtering as part of their selling points. So I think that's starting to kind of really trickle upward as well. I think that these are getting used way more than recruiters are aware, or that they are willing to admit to. And frankly, AI is starting to really replace recruiters as well. There are a lot of systems out there that are currently they're automating the interview process, for example. There are they're using like HireVue or Workday. I forget what it was called. It was called something, and they're like Patagon or something, and then it became Olivia, and Workday bought it out. But they are using video interview tools, to analyze your tone and word choice and micro expressions. And recruiters are being told that these are just to speed up screening, but they often don't know, again, how the scoring works or how much it influences their decisions, even subconsciously. Because if the system is telling you, or putting somebody up higher on a list, or just organizing things for you, you're going to lean into that. And I think we all have. I think we all now, like, there's a level of chaos and there's a level of trust, right? If you are somebody who uses ChatGPT, and like ChatGPT kind of gets to know you, gets to know your preferences, even in new chats, it doesn't seem to completely erase things. You start to develop a level of trust in these tools. And like even Facebook right now, I'm going to tell a little story. Like a few months ago, I got completely banned on Facebook and Instagram. I woke up one morning, I tried to log in, and it said, nope, you're not invited. And I run a bunch of like groups, and I'm an admin for a lot of different things for Facebook and Insta. And they're like, nope, gone. Well, why? It wouldn't tell me why. It said it was beyond appeal, and I couldn't, talk to anybody about it. And I was trying to figure out what to do. Go on Reddit. Apparently, this has been happening to thousands, like millions of people, like something like 12 million people or something. A few months ago, were completely blocked from Facebook and Instagram without any explanation. Just completely blocked, and to the point that like the small claim court systems in California were completely blocked up, and 24 different attorney generals throughout the United States were contacting Meta to fix the situation, because their small claims were completely filled with people who had just been blocked without any kind of explanation, like permanently. Or their explanations was something to do with child porn, and you'd have like little old ladies on Facebook Marketplace, like, I'm just trying to sell scarves. What are you even talking about? What was happening was, and still happening, I believe, because now there's like all these class action lawsuits. But what was happening was that they're using AI to administer the systems. And they're doing it to get rid of any kind of dangerous child-related content, and they are doing it to get rid of AI slop. They want to reduce. They don't want AI slop wrecking it like it's wrecking Pinterest and other things, right? So They decided to have AI determine these things and have basically no customer service to back that up. So luckily, my husband gets on the phone. He has Facebook. He does Meta business stuff, and he gets after hours and hours all nighter. He gets on the phone with the right person. We find out what the root cause is. The root cause was the AI had determined that I was too young to use Facebook. It had determined that I was under the age of 16, even though my Facebook account itself is over 16 years old. So AI still makes like a lot of really, really stupid mistakes, but we're starting to trust it, and the more we trust it, and the more it learns from us, um, the more we're gonna see this stuff. Alrighty, so let's see. So okay, so let's see here. Da, 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 da. Okay, so when it comes to resume writing, when it comes to figuring out these systems, obviously, again, I can't stress these enough. Like things like JobScan, Teal, SkillSyncer, SkillSyncer, Resi. These are all tools that could definitely help you. I do believe in customization. You can also honestly use ChatGPT to say, okay, here's my resume, here's the job I'm applying to. What do you think? How can I strengthen this? It'll give you suggestions. You can, customize, but customize. I do highly recommend avoiding AI resume builders because they all kind of have these specific looks, these visual formats that recruiters know, they see, they understand, they don't like. They know immediately not to trust it. There's a lack of trust with these systems, and in some cases, they have done coding specifically against these systems. I don't recommend them. I think they're a waste of money, even at their best, even if they break through. I don't think that these specific things are just worth the money. They are very expensive for what they're actually giving you. A lot of times they really mess up. And employers, there's only like a handful of these systems. They all kind of look and they say the same things. And employers, like it's like an immediate red flag. If you're sitting there and you're reviewing hundreds of resumes all day, every day, you're going to start to see trends. You're going to start to see things that kind of repeat, and you're going to know, oh, I don't want to look at them anymore. Okay, they're jaded to them. I don't recommend. But not only do the key word phrasing, you want to make sure that your formatting is text based. I do graphic resumes. I know how to do graphic resumes. They perform as well through a ATS as a plain text resume because I know how plain text can also mess up in systems with the word choices. And I know that to mark these as decorative elements and hide them behind or in front of the text. So that they don't really mess anything up. But these systems don't necessarily read the graphics. The graphics are when humans can they always look at the resume. At the end of the day, the resume visually gets viewed. So that's for the person who makes the hiring decision, your future boss, the person beyond just the recruiters. They a lot of times like a little sparkle dazzle. So do a lot of these recruiters who are, Gen Z, and now we're getting into Gen Alpha. They don't understand a plain black and white resume with the Times New Roman font. You might as well have an AOL address on there. So I do personally, I like a little graphic dazzle, a little color. But some of these systems are better. Most of these systems now can read things in text boxes, but still maybe have an issue organizing them in the right way. I avoid text boxes myself. It's been years, so it's a habit of mine. But they're a little bit more safe now. I'd see templates are a little safer than they were 5 years ago for sure. And you put your skills and experience in order of the weight assignments if you can. If they're sitting there, for example, and they really want you to know Python, make sure that Python is mentioned more. Put that weight into the resume. Rise it up higher. Obviously, recency and continuity are getting higher scoring. If you haven't done anything relevant recently, if you have a job, you're unable to hold a job, the AI is going to sense that a little bit better than it used to. But also, again, and I can't stress this enough, AI doesn't actually make the hiring decisions. Humans do. We got to write for humans. And because AI is eating so many jobs that are based on solely logic, You need to show not just a functional expertise, but a meta expertise, which means, AI performs tasks, right? Humans interpret context. So you have to shift from an operational from a cognitive impact, right? So instead of like saying manage marketing campaigns across digital channels, you can say things like engineer data-driven engagement strategies, translating behavioral insights into brand trust and revenue growth. We want to kind of, I don't want to get too wordy in a resume, but we want to really show how that kind of brings people together, how you bring a human element into like collaboration it has been a big word for a while, but collaboration is only going to get bigger. Problem solving, empathy, the human touch. These are things we want to start really emphasizing now because it's really what we have to offer as humans now, right? Translating and even just like from task execution from like strategic thinking. So translating a routine work into strategic outcomes that influence direction and not just deliver an output, right? So like I created a weekly analytics dashboard for leadership. Okay, that's a real common thing people do. But now you can synthesize performance analytics into strategic recommendations, redirecting, $8 million to spend toward high yield channels. Okay. And again, in resumes, you always want to be specific and quantified whenever possible with your results. But we want to talk about how these things help strategize and metastasize and got into the thing that ended up with these spectacular results, not just that I created the dashboard. This is what the dashboard did. This is how the strategy that went into the dashboard. These were the results of it. We got to really kind of sell it. All right. And so, like, from an operator to a human in the loop leader. Okay. So, show stewardship of technology rather than subservience to it. So, demonstrate like the ethical and human oversight of whatever AI programs that you're promoting. For example, implementing machine learning tools for customer service, for you techies out there, or upcoming techies that people have had to just sort of change your careers to feed the machine. Directed a responsible AI adoption, ensuring ethical compliance, bias mitigation, seamless human oversight in service operations. We want to really talk about what that means. We want to express ourselves a little bit more. Modern resumes are going to be probably a little bit more verbose and human and show personality. Longevity no longer signals value. Okay, so this experience tenure, this idea of starting off a resume with over 20 plus years experience. It's so bored, it's so tired, and nobody cares, right? It could be bad experience. It could be see this an old salesman. They just eat steak dinners every lunch. They talk to their same guys. Well, that's not the same as like the young guy actually coming in and saying, I closed this deal. I made these millions of dollars, right? So experience tenure is one thing, but also learning velocity. We need humans that learn pretty quickly now, right? You're in competition with machines. So longevity no longer signals value. Agility does. So you need to emphasize rapid learning, reskilling, technology fluency. You don't just say, 20 years of managing software projects, like boring, I'm asleep already. But you say advanced innovation cycles by integrating emerging technologies and agile methods and AI-enabled delivery models. You really kind of explain what that is and what the new thing is, because nobody cares about software that you developed 20 years ago. Nobody cares about Unix. Okay, let's move on and okay, thank you for all of your work for the Y2, cleaning the Y2K bug. Thank you, but that's not a thing anymore. Nobody cares. Okay. And then, of course, like a job function to value creation. And that's pretty typical of resumes. That's been resumes since I've been in the business. Stop talking about just contributions, but focus on the outcomes, efficiency, transformation, rather than just the job mechanics, right? So instead of saying supported automated automation initiatives across departments, which, technically anybody can do that. If I say I support you, that's so vague. I hate the phrase supported whenever possible. Like I need specifics on what does support mean. But Reduce process time 42% and improve data accuracy 35%. Again, you want to drive numbers. Accelerating enterprise efficiency through AI, human AI collaboration. So again, you want to start off, and humans read from left to right. So whenever possible, front load your bullets, put the achievement first, followed by the process. And then from human generic skills, from human-centric differentiators, highlight capabilities AI cannot emulate, like empathy, trust building, creative synthesis, leadership. Don't just say you have strong communication and teamwork skills because blah, 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 blah. Who cares? By the way, everybody thinks they have wonderful communication skills. A lot of you don't, and you'll still put it in there. I've had people write to me at like a fifth grade level and say I have excellent written communication skills, and they'll misspell every word in that statement. No, you don't. All right, and it's kind of white noise anyway. I'm surprised that it's ever in a job description anymore. Like, who cares? Everybody thinks, most people, maybe younger generations, they're a little bit more realistic about that. And the pandemic put them on their ear. But most people think they have great interpersonal skills. I mean, and they'll put it on a resume. Like, that guy's a jerk. He can't talk to anybody. He doesn't have any friends. He has no interpersonal skills. What are you even talking about? So you gotta focus on, again, what that even means. Don't just say blah blah communication skills, because now you don't have to necessarily do the stupid keyword matching. And 5 years ago, my advice changes with the times all the time. So any advice I'm giving you today is for like this month, and maybe I'll give it like a 6 months. I'll stand by vouch for 6 months, but it might change in 6 months. The whole models might change. And this industry was created by Leonardo da Vinci, okay? Like, and it's still like might just fly away. But now they can read more. You don't have to just say communication skills because the stupid job description says communication skills, because the basic bitch HR person just put communication skills. Okay, all right, yeah, communication skills. We all know what that is. But now AI can kind of connect those dots. You don't have to say something as dopey as communication skills to get considered for communication skills, right? So cultivated stakeholder trust and cross-cultural alignment, enabling adoption of transformation programs across 5 regions. Again, whenever you can quantify or make something specific, tell a real story. And of course, a huge thing right now, obviously, everybody has to be adaptable. All right. I wish I could be like my parents and just, stick to my parents, tech people. And at one point, I forget the technology, my dad was always working on some sort of particular software that was really popular. It's popular with insurance companies, and it started to go away. And he's like, when it's done, I'm done. I've already have my retirement planned out. I'm good. And I'm just going to ride this out. And I'm not going to learn anything new. And all of a sudden, my parents, who are always on top of their game with technology, decided not to have any technology ever again. In fact, I think they just finally got smartphones. So it's kind of weird but that was a luxury our parents had. Their parents had. They didn't have. They got to an age in their life. They're like, no, I'm not learning no more. That's no longer a luxury. It doesn't exist. It's not an option. Okay, so one of the big things, obviously, they're looking for, and older people, we cost more. We're more qualified and more vulnerable to layoffs, I think, right? I think we're starting to find those trending out for the older people. But you need to show adaptability. You need to show ability to change and give change leadership. Demonstrate capacity to lead a transformation and inspire adoption of innovation. So if you're going to say, like, oversaw the implementation of a new CRM platform, you can say led the organization-wide digital transformation, uniting technology, people, and process to deliver $12 million annualized growth. And I'm going to rewrite that sentence because, again, I like to front load bullets. So if I'm rewriting this, I'm going to say, like, deliver $12 million in annualized growth or annual growth. I don't like annualized. By leading this organization-wide digital transformation that ignited people, technology, and processes. So or aligned them, I should say. I still have to work on that sentence. I was just sort of messing around, earlier. But you gotta, becoming AI proof requires shifting from a resume that lists tasks performed to one that highlights human intelligence applied, strategy, creativity, adaptability, and professionals who frame expertise as bridge between technology and human progress will remain indispensable in the new economy, one hopes. We're still seeing some safety. I know that there have been a lot of layoffs in but positions where human touch is needed, still needed. Anything where it's like human focused, these are the jobs. And there are still old school tech jobs that seem like they're going to be safe for a while in the new year. But it's going to be a minute. I wouldn't. I mean, I don't know that I would want to go into programming or coding right now. I feel like you're just sort of you're just trimming your replacement, right? Um, but you guys, it's been like an hour, coming on an hour 10, and I've talked enough. So thank you, everybody for listening to this. Thank you. Let me know in the comments, or I'm at marie.plett@gmail.com. If you are interested in me answering any questions specifically for next week, I'm just show up every Wednesday and just spout off out at the mouth. And if by after the holidays nobody listens, I'll probably stop. I don't know. We'll see. But I feel like if I'm consistent in doing this and people start realizing that they're not alone and have somebody that they can ask questions of, I'm here. So feel free to ask your questions, subscribe, send my channel, a link to my channel to anybody that's searching for a job if they need questions. I'm just doing this for free, as you guys can tell. Thank you, Meredith. I appreciate you. I have if an audience of one, maybe next week it'll be two, the next week it'll be four, and they tell a friend, and their friend tell a friend, and so on and so on. We'll see. But in the meantime, I hope that this was helpful. I wish you guys all best with your careers and your job searches, and like and subscribe. Thank you, guys.